I was 23 when it happened, fresh out of school and back in my hometown with a degree that didn't seem to open any doors. I was doing whatever work I could find, pet sitting, house cleaning, organizing garages, anything quiet, anything that paid under the table. That's how I met Elaine, a retired school secretary who lived on the north side of town. I watched her two cats a few times when she visited her sister. One afternoon, she asked if I was comfortable staying overnight at someone else's place. "It's just for a few days," she said. "A friend of mine needs a house sitter. He travels for work." His name was Martin. Martin called me that evening. He spoke softly with a careful politeness that felt rehearsed. He said he lived alone, had a Labrador named Henry, and needed someone to stay in the house while he was gone because Henry got destructive if left by himself. He offered good pay, better than I'd been getting. His house was at the very end of a cul-de-sac, backed up against a thin strip of woods. It was clean and orderly, almost too much so. Everything beige and symmetrical, family photos on the walls, but always just him. No spouse, no kids. In every picture, he was smiling the same way, lips closed, eyes wide. He showed me around and lingered in the guest room doorway longer than necessary. The guest room was small but comfortable. Bed, dresser, lamp, an old analog clock on the nightstand. He mentioned casually that there were security features in the house. Nothing fancy, just to deter break-ins. I didn't think much of it. The first night passed quietly. Henry slept at the foot of the bed, snoring softly. The second night I started to feel watched. Not in a dramatic way, just a sense of presence, like when you're sure someone has just looked away from you. On the third night I noticed the smoke detector. It was above the closet door, slightly angled, not straight down like it should have been. I stood on the bed to look closer. There was a tiny dark dot embedded in the plastic. Too small to notice unless you were looking for it. I told myself it was nothing, a sensor, a screw hole. Still, my hands were shaking when I climbed back down. I tried to sleep, but Henry wouldn't settle. He kept lifting his head, ears twitching, staring at the hallway. Around midnight, I heard the faintest sound, like fabric brushing against a wall. Then the unmistakable click of a door latch. I sat up. Martin wasn't supposed to be home until Friday. It was Tuesday. Henry growled low in his throat. I grabbed my phone and quietly locked the bedroom door. That's when I heard breathing. Not loud, controlled, right outside the door. "Hey," Martin said softly. "Don't panic." My stomach dropped. I couldn't move. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the carpet with a dull thud. "I didn't mean for you to find it," he said. "That's why I didn't tell you." I backed away from the door, pressing myself against the dresser. He kept talking, explaining too much, too quickly, saying the cameras were for security, for the dog, that he monitored the house remotely and only came back because something alerted him. "You shouldn't have gone looking," he said, and the softness drained from his voice. That wasn't part of the agreement. He tried the doorknob, once, twice. Henry lunged at the door, barking wildly. Martin stepped back, and for a moment everything was quiet. Then I heard him laugh. A short, sharp sound like he'd reached a conclusion. "You can open the door," he said, "or I can." I ran to the window. It was painted shut. I dug my fingers into the frame until my nails bent back, shoved with everything I had. The paint cracked. The window gave. Behind me, the bedroom door shook as Martin hit it with his shoulder. I didn't think. I climbed out, scraped my arms on the sill, and dropped hard into the flower bed. The night air felt unreal, like I'd stepped into a different world. I ran barefoot down the street, not stopping until I reached a neighbor's porch and started screaming. The police came. They searched the house. Martin was gone. They said there was no sign of forced entry, no obvious cameras. The smoke detector was normal. The house was empty and pristine, just like before. Without evidence, there was nothing they could do. Elaine stopped answering my calls. A week later, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was my unpaid cash, neatly counted. No note. That night, as I lay in my own bed, I noticed something new on my ceiling, a smoke detector that hadn't been there before, perfectly centered, perfectly still, and angled just enough to see my face. We booked the place because it was cheap, quiet, and full of 5-star reviews that used words like peaceful, private, and perfect escape. The photos showed a small farmhouse at the edge of a dying orchard, miles from anything that looked like a neighbor. The host, a widower named Gerald, sent polite messages with lots of punctuation and one rule written in all caps: no access to the root cellar. He said it was unsafe and full of old tools. The cellar door was inside the house at the end of a narrow hallway near the kitchen. Thick wood, heavy latch, a new brass padlock that didn't match anything else in the place. The first night was uneventful except for a smell that drifted through the house after midnight. Not rotten exactly, more like wet dog and vinegar. We assumed it was old plumbing. Gerald lived in a trailer somewhere on the property, according to the listing, so we figured he'd fix it later. The second night, the noises started. It began with a single thud from beneath the floor, deep enough that we felt it in the bed frame. Then silence. 10 minutes later, another sound, something being dragged slowly across concrete. Whatever it was stopped directly beneath the hallway where the cellar door was. We didn't sleep much. On the third night, the footsteps started. Measured, evenly spaced, too deliberate to be an animal. They paced back and forth, always stopping beneath the cellar door, like someone standing there listening. When I finally opened the bedroom door to check, the house was perfectly still. The cellar lock hadn't moved. That night, the smell was stronger. It crept under the door in sour waves. By the fourth day, we were exhausted and jumpy. We decided to leave early the next morning. While packing, my girlfriend noticed a small red blink on the smoke detector above the bed. It flashed once, then stopped. We laughed it off at first, until she stood on a chair and looked closer. The detector wasn't wired. It was battery-powered. And behind the plastic grill, there was a tiny black lens. Once you see one, you start seeing everything. A pinhole in the wall near the dresser, angled just right. A USB cable tucked behind the nightstand, feeding into the wall. Our skin crawled as the realization sank in. We had been watched every night while we slept. We didn't confront Gerald. We grabbed our bags, got in the car, and drove until we hit a gas station with fluorescent lights and other people. That's where we called the police. 2 officers met us and followed us back to the house. Gerald didn't answer his phone. When we pulled up, the front door was unlocked. So was the cellar. The padlock lay open on the floor, unbroken. The smell hit us immediately. Stronger, heavier, impossible to ignore. The officers drew their weapons and went down first. The cellar stairs were narrow and steep, leading into a concrete room lined with shelves. No tools, no boxes, just a folding table, a chair, and a humming monitor showing a split screen of camera feeds. Our bedroom filled one of them. Another showed the bathroom. The rest showed angles of the house we didn't recognize. A closet door creaked behind the shelves. Gerald stepped out slowly, hands raised, eyes wide and wet, like he hadn't slept in days. He tried to speak, but no one listened. He was cuffed and led upstairs without resistance. Later, we learned he'd been living under the house for weeks, entering the cellar through a hidden exterior hatch after guests fell asleep. The reviews stopped abruptly 6 months earlier. Before that, they were glowing. The charges were enough to put him away, but not enough to erase the feeling that followed us home. We don't stay in rentals anymore, hotels only, crowded ones. And every night before we sleep, we check the ceiling. We check the walls. We listen for footsteps that move too carefully to belong to chance. When I moved into the duplex, the ad described it as quiet, affordable, and ideal for professionals. My roommate, Daniel, seemed to fit that promise. He was soft-spoken, kept to himself, and worked nights at a hospital lab. We barely crossed paths. Sometimes days passed without more than a nod in the hallway. The first strange thing I noticed was my bedroom door. I was certain I'd left it closed before going to work. I always did. Habit drilled into me since childhood. But when I came home that evening, it was open just a crack. I shrugged it off. Old house, drafts, maybe I misremembered. Then it happened again. And again. Next, my closet door. I didn't use it much, mostly storage boxes and winter coats. But one night I found it wide open, hangers gently swaying as if they'd just been touched. My stomach tightened, but I told myself not to be dramatic. I was tired, paranoid, new place jitters. The furniture came next. My desk chair angled slightly toward the bed when I knew I'd left it tucked in. A laundry basket moved closer to the wall. Subtle things, small enough to doubt myself, large enough to keep me awake. Daniel never mentioned anything. He never asked to borrow anything, never knocked, never even commented on my room. But sometimes, when I passed his door late at night, I swore I heard soft clicking sounds, like buttons being pressed. One Saturday, I decided to deep clean my room. If nothing else, it would give me peace of mind. I pulled everything out from under the bed, vacuumed corners I'd ignored, wiped down shelves. That's when I noticed the outlet behind my nightstand. Something black was plugged into it. Small, smooth, blinking faintly. At first, I thought it was a charger. Then I followed the wire and saw the lens. A tiny wireless camera, angled perfectly toward my bed. My hands shook as I unplugged it. I checked for a memory card. There wasn't one. It was live feed only. I felt exposed, nauseous, like the walls were watching me breathe. I didn't confront Daniel, not yet. Instead, I hid the camera in the false bottom of my nightstand drawer and waited. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made my heart slam against my ribs. At exactly 2:47 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, careful. The floor creaked once, then stopped. My door handle turned. I kept my eyes closed, breathing steady, pretending sleep. The door opened just enough for a sliver of hallway light to spill across the floor. Someone stepped inside. The drawer slid open. I felt him pause. Then the sound of frantic searching, wood scraping, items shifting. His breathing changed, faster, sharper. "What did you do with it?" Daniel whispered. I opened my eyes. He was standing over my nightstand, face pale, eyes wide and furious. He didn't flinch when I sat up. Instead, his expression hardened. "You moved it," he said. "Why did you move it?" I asked him what the hell he thought he was doing in my room. He laughed, a short, broken sound, and said the camera was to keep an eye on things. Claimed he thought I'd been stealing from him. When I asked why it was aimed at my bed, his story changed, then changed again. He stepped closer, too close. "Give it back," he said. "You shouldn't mess with other people's property." I told him I was calling the police. His face went blank. The next morning, I threw the camera into the trash outside the building and took photos of the outlet, the wire, everything. I emailed the landlord, filed a complaint, waited. Nothing happened. The camera was gone from the trash by afternoon. Daniel still lives here. The landlord says there's no proof, no footage, no device. Just my word against his. Now I sleep with my phone recording, my door barricaded with a chair. I found 2 more suspicious outlets. One smoke detector that hums when it shouldn't. Every night I hear faint footsteps stop outside my door. Every morning, something in my room is just slightly different, and I don't know if the worst part is knowing someone is watching me or not knowing where they're hiding the cameras now.